Hi there everybody, Jack back again on the Vinyl Voyage. So today I would like to speak about a specific type of music fan, and I'm sure you've all met someone like this. Now, here's a scenario. You're chatting shit about records with someone, you're talking about bands and artists and their discographies, and this normally happens with bands with bigger discographies or more cult beginnings. But there's that type of music fan who, when you mention an album, they'll kind of turn their nose up at it and I prefer their earlier stuff. Nonsense. Okay, so this is not nostalgia. That response is not a kind of appreciation of youthful inventiveness, energy, the blossomings of a fantastic new career. What this is snobbery. It's like a kind of calculated hipsterness to kind of show that while you might be interested in the main body of an artist's work, they're in the know in terms of kind of select albums, or they were there when it all began. Now, here's a couple of examples. You know something, the Pixies, Doolittle, for me, it was just like a high watermark for their career. I don't know, I prefer the early stuff. Or, you know something, Screamadelica, what an amazing fusion of UK dance, rave culture, and indie rock music. I don't know, I prefer their earlier stuff. Well, today I'm going to be just that type of arsehole because I've got a little stack of records here where all the bands have kind of extensive back catalogues. They were all pretty successful artists, but in each of these cases, I kind of prefer their earlier stuff. Okay then, to begin with, a big mainstream album. This is from 1991. It's Manchester's favourite sons, Oasis, with their debut album, Definitely Maybe. Now, I remember the first time that I saw Oasis, or one of the first times, it was the Supersonic video, but then I remember seeing Noel and Liam on the front cover of the magazine, The Face, it's like a kind of fashion magazine, and it was alongside the title, The Sex Beatles, kind of implying in the article that Oasis were like this amalgamation of the energy and the snottiness of the Pistols and the amazing musical sensibilities and songwriting skill of the Beatles. Is that too far? Definitely, maybe. Well, they were a kind of catchy, upbeat band with a lot of energy. They did have an arrogant, kind of snotty front man, and they did have a rudimentary kind of handle on their instruments. So it wasn't so far fetched. And they were also a band that kind of stuck two fingers up to the older generations, and as a result, older generations didn't like them either, much like the Pistols. But for me, the problem with Oasis was that there was no Act Two. You know, the first album is great. You get great songs on here, like Shaker Maker, songs that stick two fingers up to the future, like Cigarettes and Alcohol. It's about living for the weekend with songs like Do You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star? Live Forever is just an amazing classic song. But like I said, there was no Act Two. They didn't evolve their sound. They didn't take chances. They didn't try and go in any new directions. Like the follow up was fine. What's the story, Morning Glory? But after that, it was just Act One repeated again and again with diminishing returns. They became like a bit of a parody of themselves by the time they got to albums like The Hindu Times. And well, there was a little uppick at Don't Believe the Truth was a bit of a better album, but then things like Standing in the Shoulder of Giants and all that kind of nonsense was just rotten, I think. So for me, the debut album, by far the best that Oasis ever put. So when it comes to Oasis, I definitely prefer their earlier stuff. Next up, it's another big mainstream band, but this time Athens, Georgia, the US. It's 1983. It's R.E.M. with their debut album Murmur on IRS. The thing I love about R.E.M. is just they're so much bigger than the sum of their parts. You know, you've got nothing really flashy about Peter Buck's guitar playing or Bill Berry's drumming, but when you put it all together with, you know, Mike Mills's melodic bass playing and Stipe's totally unique vocals, that kind of mumbled, half undecipherable, almost like spoken word in places vocal. They just created something totally new. You know, they've that kind of mix of Birdsey and Django mixed with a kind of post-punk UK indie sensibility. There was no one like R.E.M. at the time, and this is just like a flawless album. You've got obviously the stomping Pilgrimage, just an amazing kind of alt country song. But then like driving songs like Radio Free Europe, I think that was the first R.E.M. song I heard. Absolutely amazing. And then the kind of yearning, Talk About the Passion, which is probably my favourite R.E.M. song overall. And granted, they would release bigger, more commercial albums. Even, when you go up to albums like Green, where they started to cross over into the mainstream, and then like their kind of mega smashes like Out of Time with Shiny Happy People and Losing My Religion, and then obviously Automatic for the People had like a massive string of hits. They never ever hit the heights for me, or the creative heights of Murmur again. So R.E.M. for me, definitely a band where I prefer their earlier stuff. So sticking in Athens, Georgia, but moving a couple of years back to 1979, you've got the debut album from the B-52s on Island Records. This is such a fun album, an album that doesn't take itself too seriously, more like a kind of more commercial version of the Cramps. But I love their mashup of, surf guitar, 60s sounding organs. The drums sound like, that kind of 60s dance craze sound, and then you've got those wonderful 60s sounding girl group vocals mixed in with Fred Schneider's campy kind of spoken word bits. But yeah, just fantastic stuff. You've got great songs like Rock Lobster, Planet Claire, where they have that great 60s B-movie sci-fi organ sound that just sounds so fantastic as well. And obviously they had big success. This wasn't a massive commercial success in the late 70s, but they had big success in the mid-80s with Love Shack. And even their following up album, Wild Planet, was commercially a bigger album, but for me, they were never as good as their debut. So again, I prefer their earlier stuff. So far, I don't think I've been too controversial. A lot of people would probably agree that the bands and their albums that I've shown are probably their best ones. Maybe R.E.M. have got different time periods, so there might be a bit of discussion on that one. But this next band, I'm sure, will court more controversy and split opinion. It is the Talking Heads with their debut album, 77. So I know the Talking Heads have got a lot of great albums, but I prefer their early stuff. It's got the spiky guitars, it's more energetic. Tina Weymouth's bass playing just pings all over the place. You've got brilliant changes in time signature with the drums. David Byrne's lyrics are weirder, they're stranger. He just yelps and hollers all over the place. And obviously it's got that killer track, Psycho Killer. So for me, their debut on Sire Records is the pick of the bunch. I absolutely love Fear of Music, and I've got a real soft spot for Little Creatures, but they never ever hit the high points of their debut album again. So this next guy had an absolutely stellar recording career, recorded albums over 50 years. All of his albums are brilliant as well, so there might be differences of opinion with this one too, but for me this is his best one. It's Leonard Cohen's debut from 67 on Columbia Records. It is The Songs of Leonard Cohen. Now, don't just take my word for it. Ask one of the billion artists who have covered the songs in this album, like Suzanne has been covered so many times, as has So Long Marianne. Sisters of Mercy has been covered a billion times as well. It's just a brilliant album. For me, the only one that maybe comes close to it would be New Skin for the Old Ceremony. But the reason I would choose this above that album is I think this has got a better side too. Really sparse in places. Cohen's lyrics are just absolutely fantastic. I know that Cohen clashed with the producer John Simon while recording this. Simon wanted to add more percussion, make it more percussive with a fuller band sound with horns. It was the US psych band Kaleidoscope who provide backing on this, but Cohen was not for having that at all. He wanted the album to be sparse with the focus on his voice and guitar. And that happened again later in his career with Phil Spector, who ramped up the production on Death of a Ladies' Man, which again is an album that I really love, but you can't beat the debut. So for me, I prefer the early stuff. 1979, and the best band to ever come out of Coventry is, of course, the Specials with their debut album on Two Tone Records. What an album this is. I love the Specials, and I love all their discography. More Specials is great, all the way up to Protest Songs. You've got that great reunion album with Terry Hall. It's fantastic. Encore, that was really good as well, but nothing really touches the first album. I obviously had that amazing kind of mix of classic upbeat Jamaican ska covers and then their own compositions as well that kind of spoke to disaffected youth of Britain in the late 1970s. It was just brilliant. I love those covers. I love how upbeat Big Monkey Man is, that cover of Toots and the Maytals number. And then you've got Dandy Livingston's Message to You, Rudy, with that lovely little harmonica line that's so catchy. And then the pick of the bunch for me would be the Scatolites, the cover of their song, You're Wondering Now, with the You Can't Come In, You Can't Come In. Just tremendous stuff. And then obviously their own compositions as well. Great songs like Too Much Too Young and that spooky organ sound. It's such a catchy song. Ghost Town is just fantastic as well. It's kind of forever linked to that amazing music video as well. But yeah, Specials, debut, the best of the bunch. So next up then, another artist with a really long distinguished career, a discography packed full of highly acclaimed albums. This time is John Prine with his amazing debut from 1971 on Atlantic Records, an album that I absolutely adore. This album just does what it says in the tin. It's John Prine sitting on a hay bale with an acoustic guitar by his side. It's just a kind of quintessential singer-songwriter album, kind of Americana before that tag was going around. But yeah, what a great, great album. Like Cohen, a lot of the songs by John Prine have just been covered by countless artists, and yeah, just great songs on this album. What I like about John Prine as a songwriter is he can write those introspective autobiographical songs. He can write songs with, really in-depth, deep social commentary, but he also can write these humorous little lines and kind of little funny bits in his songs. And the best thing about Prine is he can do all three in the one song. He was like kind of almost like the songwriter. The main man, Bob Dylan, was a big fan. Yeah, great songs on here. I Like Your Smile is so good. Hello in There, fantastic song, so melodic. Sam Stone, that great song about PTSD. And then there's a kind of more humorous one, Start Aside Too. Your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. Yeah, just brilliant. Yeah, love John Prine. I like a lot of his albums. I like the following up album, seems to get a bit of a raw deal. What was it called? Is it Rough Diamonds? And then after that, Sweet Revenge. Or sorry, Diamonds in the Rough. And then Sweet Revenge is more highly acclaimed. I love Bruised Orange, but that's got like a bit of a kind of slicker production. Still great songs. And then Tree of Forgiveness, one of his late career albums, all fantastic. But when it comes to Prine, I prefer his earlier stuff. The next one then I think will be the most debatable of them all. This band's discography seems to split opinion all the time. I like watching ranking videos and reading about bands' discographies, and quite often I'll see the album that finishes at the bottom at the top, and the top album can be at the bottom, and everywhere in between. They seem to massively split opinion, and it is The Doors. And this, of course, is their debut album from '67 on Elektra. Now, for me, this is their best album. I love The Doors as a whole. Again, like R.E.M, I think they're a band that are bigger than the sum of their parts. I think all of their characters massively come through. Ray Manzarek's keyboard doesn't sound like anybody. They don't have a bass player. He plays that bass organ. You've got Krieger with that amazing bluesy guitar with so many different elements like jazz, and then later albums, flamenco. Densmore's got that great kind of jazz drum style, and then obviously Jim Morrison was like almost like the blueprint for the modern day rock star. But yeah, the debut for where it all began for me is the best one. I love like all their albums. I really, really like Strange Days is a fantastic album. I like Waiting for the Sun. Soft Parade quite often comes at the bottom of these ranking videos, and I really love Soft Parade as well. So I think the Doors for me are the hardest band to rank. But the debut album, come on, it's got Bossa Nova Psych on there with Break On Through. You've got that kind of Latin jazz vibe running through the long instrumentation, and improvised passages of Light My Fire. The end is just like absolutely epic song. The bluesy songs as well, like Backdoor Man, that Willie Dixon song is brilliant. It's got that fantastic line. I love that. I eat more chicken than any man's ever seen. Then the kind of crystalline beauty of the crystal ship, the soul of Soul Kitchen. And then you've got operatic psych as well, where they've taken that Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht operatic number, the Alabama song, and just giving it like a kind of blues, honky tonk makeover. So yeah, for me, this is the pick of the bunch. Yeah, I'm sure you can put in the comments what your favourite Doors album is, but everybody seems to pick a different one. Oof, another one that's going to split opinion. It is The Clash with their debut album from '77 on CBS Records. Now this just comes flying out the gates, that's why I choose it. It's got so much attitude, so much energy, so much punk spirit that none of the other albums came close. You know, smacks you right in the face right at the beginning with Janie Jones, that song about an infamous UK brothel keeper. And then it's got that ska influence that obviously the later albums had as well, with Junior Marvin's Police and Thieves. And then just the lyrics are brilliant as well. So much punk spirit and attitude. Songs like Career Opportunities. I love that line. I hate the army and I hate the RAF. I'm ex-military myself, so I can kind of relate. But yeah, just absolutely amazing. And that's not to say I don't love the Clash's other stuff. I really like Give 'Em Enough Rope. It's got an absolutely fantastic side one, but there's a few weaker songs on Give Me Enough Rope. That there's no weak songs on this album. And again, London Calling, absolutely amazing double, packed with great songs, but it doesn't have the immediacy, it doesn't have the attitude, it doesn't have the energy that the debut has. So for The Clash, I prefer the early stuff. So this one's a bit more cut and dry. It is Roxy Music's debut album from 1972 on Island Records, and this is a great album. Everything to do with this album, from the cover art to the songs to the sound, is just fantastic. Look at these dudes in here. Nobody sounded like Roxy Music at the time, and for me that was just really because of Brian Eno. Brian Eno, with his electronic wizardry, his synthesizers, his sequencers, you know, what he did to the guitar on the album is just brilliant as well, and I don't think they would have had that without Brian Eno. You know, For Your Pleasure's a great album as well, and I liked them up until Country Life, but after that, Roxy Music kind of got a bit shite, to be honest. They were never as good as the first two albums. Like For Your Pleasure, like I said, is a great album as well. Is a really great album. I might have got this one wrong. Actually, do I like For Your Pleasure more? I'm not sure. Either the debut or For Your Pleasure. I might have got this one wrong, but the phrase still stands. Roxy Music, I prefer their early stuff. There we have it. 10 albums for bands where I prefer their early stuff. Did you prefer these bands' early albums? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are they up for debate? Some of these bands, have you got other albums that you prefer more? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Any bands that with bigger discographies for you think that there's an early album that outshines all the others? Again, stick that in the comments as well. I'd love to hear about it. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, please do. It'll be the best decision you'll make all day. Well, until the next time, see you later. Bye for now.